Okay, we are back, and once again, stepping into the Matrix. Nikolai, welcome back, brother. Welcome back.
Hey everyone, and excited to chat again.
Yeah, so this was, and this actually ties into what you and me were talking about previous to us hitting the record button here a little bit.
We have secret conversations
Yes,
that
very
sooner or later
secret.
we're gonna make all of them. We're gonna start recording in the beginning sooner or later.
But then people are gonna be like, "What the fuck are they talking about?"
or it's gonna be the opposite. It's like, holy fuck, I wish I watched this earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, to give everyone a little backstory, we were previously discussing about dominating energies, and we were talking about one of the energies that I'm working on in this, I guess we'd say this lifetime.
Yes,
Would that be a way to say it?
correct.
Yeah, which was truth and knowledge. And so, to give people a little bit of backstory,
Hmm.
for the listeners, what are the different dominating energies that everybody, and I'm paraphrasing here so you can correct me, that everybody comes into this lifetime or this incarnation to learn about, to harmonize? So can you talk a little bit and give us that base level background so everybody sort of understands what are dominating energies, and then we can unpack from there what we need to do with them?
Yeah, and this awesome question, and it nicely ties in into our previous episode, which was about karma, I believe. Yeah, excuse me. We talked about karma, and this is just one type of energy. And when we talk about karma, karma is us learning about how to interact with the energy that we don't know how to interact with harmoniously yet. So that's karma. But coming back to this, let's talk about how the soul loads into the body. The soul creates a unique mix of energies that shapes our personality and identity, and it sends an energetic impulse with that unique mix of energies, and that becomes Mitch or Nikolai or John or whoever. And as part of that mix, there are different sets and subsets of energies, and that creates this personality that walks through this life, or lives this life, and accumulates experience and evolution, and that's what ultimately the soul wants to do. It creates this unique mix. It says, I'm going to create this unique mix, and my bet that this unique mix will have the most success to get the most evolutionary points per se, and sends it into the body and observes how that performs. And in one of the previous episodes, we chatted that uh, the mix that consistently succeeds in a game of life gets saved for eternity, so that it can be used again in the future when new evolutionary experience needs to be developed. So soul can reuse that personality per se. So the soul has like a set of different mixes that have already worked, and it designs new mixes of energy to see if there is even a better, more effective personality that can just win at this game of evolution. So coming back to this, and also what I mentioned in the past is, in the evolutionary school, the version 5 matrix, which is advanced evolutionary school, matrix has preloaded close to 10 million successful paths of how to succeed in the game of life, and we call them like a path of saints. And the saints is a soul that loaded into semi-animalistic state of a body, and managed to enlighten self and to become a conductor of a lot of energy, hence saint, a lot of light there, right? So the fifth matrix has already preloaded around 10 millions of different paths that should lead to success. So now we have a soul that creates this unique mix, sends it
Mhm.
as an impulse to the body, and picks one of these paths out of a 10 million. And now the game of life starts playing. And ultimately, if we come back to what's the point of game of life, is to become saint, gain the infinite access to energy, which is synchronizing triad, this body with the mind, with the soul and spirit. And the energy comes from the soul and spirit. When we get there, we achieve the state of what's also called in other cultures, state of nirvana, and people experience it on drugs. And that's why some drugs are addicting. It's like where you just have this, where you're just happy and joyful, and you feel sovereign, self-sufficient. You feel you can create anything and everything. It's just this also godlike state or infinite state per se. And when we connect with the soul and spirit, we start receiving a lot of energy and we start feeling that way. So we start feeling this godlike state. And at the end of the day, we become godlike because now we're synchronized with soul and spirit, which is basically a shape and form of God, or a permutation or part of God, or absolute that holds this whole universe. We basically connect with a fractal of, or with a portion of God that is our soul and spirit. And by the way, Scott Adams, the video you sent me chatting with Naval,
Mhm.
his book God's Debris. It's a great read, very simple. I think it's like 30 pages. It's written in his style as like what is it called? He created Dilbert or whatever
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the guy's name or the character's name. Um, so he talks in a very interesting philosophical way about us being a fractal of God. So reading that book is like, it's one of the first, let's call it semi-spiritual books I read, and it's like fascinated me. So coming back to the game of life, the impulse goes into the body. The body is just on this planet, this body, this species was chosen to be the species that can connect with consciousness, or can connect with God, or can connect with soul and spirit. The initial impulse goes in, and this unique cocktail of energies is loaded. And this personality now needs to figure out how to reconnect with higher self, which is soul and spirit, or consciousness, if we want to use non-religious terminology. And it plays this game of life, like, I don't know, building companies, going through universities, or dropping out of school, going to army, whatever it is, to reconnect with consciousness. And some people reconnect with consciousness by going to ashram in India and meditating for 10 years, you know?
Mhm.
Some people reconnect with God or consciousness by shooting bullets at each other in Russian-Ukrainian war. Everybody's path is different because everybody's personality is shaped differently, and they have different path of life, those one out of those 10 million. Uh, and they are learning different experiences. So everybody can reconnect with God in every shape and form. Somebody gets in a car accident and it flips their life. Somebody just works a regular job and finds a YouTube video and watches the YouTube video, something clicks in, they become curious and they start seeking. And to tie, and I'm going to get to the dominating energies. This is the foundation or the structure of how all this ties together. So this personality, through this personality, we play a game in an animalistic body. So that's why at that state, in the beginning of life, the person is, I'd say, closer to animal than creator, than God. And the funny thing, my parents were visiting a month ago, and they dug up old photo albums. And there is two albums that I created when I was teenager, grade 10. I was in love with this girl. And two albums, literally the pictures of us hanging out, this girl and the group of friends hanging out. And when I look at the Nikolai, who is like around 16 years old, and I look into the eyes of 16-year-old Nikolai, there's like close to zero spark of God or soul or spirit. There's just a fucking hungry animal that is driven by being fed, being comfortable, wanting sex, and procreation.
Mhm.
So, and when I looked at that picture, it was like, that's not me. No way. But it's me, right? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? It almost like made me feel uncomfortable. Like, there's no way that was me. And I kept looking. I was like, wow. So in the beginning, now it's a little bit different. The souls that are loading into the new babies are low. Like when you look in their eyes, it's like looking into the eyes of God, because this new generation is loading here for the sixth version of Matrix. So they are already connected. They're
Mm.
already online. Um, and that's, by the way, what's also causing this shitstorm in among the younger generation now. Like the suicide rates are substantially higher. They're completely misunderstood. They don't understand this like evil, angry, chaotic world, and as a result, they're super lost because the timelines constantly shift. And according to some, this transition was supposed to happen earlier, but the plan for loading in souls was already intact. So some of these souls loaded in, and there was supposed to be more of a six matrix functioning, which is like creative laboratory. There's no like karma. People are creative. It's all about creating and collaborating, and they load here, and people are fucking fighting with each other, and like, what the fuck is going on? But our generations, when we were loading in, we were more loading in into like a body that was closer to animal state and driven by animal states. And it's interesting, as I was progressing through, let's call it, people in English spiritual world call it ascension or
Mhm.
enlightenment or awakening, pick a word. Um, I observed how the animalistic desires like just subdued. And like one great example for a man, when you look for a beautiful, stunning woman, when you're still more on the side of animalistic state, there is like something that is like, oh, I desire her. And when you get fully connected with triad, the state becomes, that is not my woman. Meaning, like, you look at beautiful women, and then unless that's a match for you, there will not be a physical response.
Mm.
Whereas before, it didn't fucking matter, match or not match.
Yeah,
I want
yeah, like,
that.
I'm going. You're
I'm
it.
going in, and it was annoying in the beginning because I was like, come on. I'm like, but hey, and that's so through the personality we play this game, we play this quest to synchronize the triad, to synchronize with the soul and spirit, to synchronize with our purpose, with our objective, and etc., and achieve this godlike state while still being in the body. And in the sixth matrix, being in this godlike state while still being in the body allows us to be gods in a world of forms, meaning we will be able to create stuff. Like right now, Elon Musk sending rockets into space seems cool. That will seem like riding a bicycle in a sixth version of Matrix. Because the capabilities, because we'll have the capabilities of the God, and we are in form and the body. And Six Matrix supports more advanced game and creation. It's like an upgraded version where we can take energy and through energy create all types of new forms of life, new forms of material. Like when I say new forms of life, new forms of plants, animals, not by gene editing, which usually produces, let's call it, unbalanced forms of life, because the gene is so complex. When we are editing, using CRISPR or whatever to edit specific gene, very few can predict the consequences, how it impacts other genes. This type of creation will be holistic, where you create a form in a holistic form of life in a very holistic way. And that's one of the big complaints. And now I'm like going on a lot of tangents, but still I think I should mention, like GMO food. They've
Yeah.
edited the genes for that fruit or vegetable not to be attacked by an insect or fungus or whatever it is, right? As a result, it became less nutritious and less accessible as nutrients and etc. to human body.
And
So
less
that's an
tasty.
example. Less tasty. So that's an example of non-holistic gene editing. It's like it seems like we achieved something, but we broke everything else. What's the fucking point of eating rubber apple? You know, you eat
Yeah.
apple, there's barely any flavor, and it's like you barely get any benefit. And on top of that, it actually a lot of that food, the reason people intuitively feel like I shouldn't be eating this, is actually detrimental to the body because it's out of balance. The like let's say the vitamin, the mineral, and all types of other ratios are off.
Yeah.
So in a holistic system, when it's balanced, you eat the apple, it heals you, it gives you energy, blah blah blah. You eat GMO apple, and you're like, I'm tired, because it's like it's all like there's now too much sugar. It's in a different, slightly different form. It spikes your insulin, blah blah blah. So now coming back to the dominating energies. So as a one set of energies that loads into this body, animalistic body that was chosen to be the carrier of consciousness or have ability to connect with consciousness. The most important set of energy that gets loaded in, we call them uh, the energies of the soul. There are dominating energies, non-dominating, and energies we're learning. And there are different names for those energies. And there are 8 major types of energies on this planet. In this part of universe, a soul can develop and interact with 8 types of energies. And they have different colors in the energy, in light form. So I'll go through all of them. The first one is let's start with harmony and order. That's my dominating energy,
Hmm.
and it's white light. Then there is truth and knowledge. Truth and knowledge. You're studying this energy. Your soul is studying this energy. Then there's wisdom. That's your dominating energy. Then there's love. That's also your dominating energy. Then there is strength and willpower. That's my second dominating energy. Then there is energy of creation and another energy. Then there is energy of, let's see what else there is, communication and self-expression. That's another energy. And then there is one more energy that has the same color as creation because it's actually energy from this planet. The energy of creation is orange. It's it's energy of loyalty, and I'm like missing the other word. It will come
Yeah, it
back to
starts
me.
with a C, I think, or
Like it's
it's
almost like compassion, but it's not compassion. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna tell you right now. That one I always forget for some reason. It's not my devotion and compassion.
yes, that was it.
That's basically the energy. So that's we got 8 energies. When the soul when the soul creates this mix, this is the most important subset of energies or bucket of energies that it loads in. It's the main energies for what's being loaded in. Dominating energies, what it means, it can be 1 to 3, very rarely 4 dominating energies. Those are the energies that soul decided to give you as the main source of your expression. That's basically, think of it as energy that you have infinite access to. So in your scenario, you have love and wisdom. So for example, love as dominating energy is ability to accept anyone and everyone the way they are. It's the so-called unconditional love. So for me, harmony and order, it's all about, I like everything that is beautiful. I like to create systems because harmony and order is all about the systems, and it's absolute systems, sustainable systems. So everybody has to be systematized, processes have to be sustainable, and etc. Where I'm going with this is the reason it's important to know those dominating energies is because when you align with them, your life becomes easy. Think of it as your biggest talents. And when you understand that energy, you have infinite access to that energy. So when you express yourself through those energies, you should pick your career, job, etc. through those energies, because then you have infinite access to that energy. Infinite per se. you have the most access to that energy. There's actually a limiter, but it's a different limiter, because in the beginning, the impulse that is sent to the avatar has a limited overall energy. Think of it as it's a bucket of energy, and most of the energy in that bucket is your dominating energy. So you can still run out of it until you connect with the soul and spirit. And then it becomes, when you connect to soul and spirit, then you have access to infinite energy. In the beginning, you have a bucket, and your dominating energy occupied the most of this bucket. So if you express through that energy, everything becomes easy in life, and the matrix expects you to express yourself through those energies. It's like, and I'll give you an example. So let's say you're walking in a dark street, and some thugs jump you or me in a dark street. In my scenario, the way I should be interacting with them is through strength and willpower, or harmony and order. Those are two dominating energies. So, but let's say I decide to express myself through communication and self-expression. I try to reason with them. It's like, guys, come on, like, we can find a solution. They'll just beat me up because it's not my dominating energy. And because everybody's in the matrix, in the social matrix, they'll be like, this guy's full of shit. And they'll just like basically continue with whatever they're planning to do. If I express myself through strength and willpower, even though there are more of them and they're bigger, they'll back off. And I've experienced it multiple times. And to me, first, it was like, I couldn't understand this. Like, happened multiple times in the nightclubs. Last time it was like a while back ago, we had a corporate outing. We ended up in a nightclub after different, like, whatever, team building events. And there were two women on a team, and they were dancing, and there were two drunk guys. They're like, both of them, two sizes of me, like taller, shoulders, like massive. And they were like basically going after them. And one was like basically, I think she was then either in relationship, already married. I know they were married now, I think. And the other one was single, but still she was not interested. And they're like trying to avoid the guys. And they came up to me and was like, hey, can you do something? I look at two guys, and I was like, I already had similar experience in the past. And I was like, I know how to deal with this. I come up to them and I just turn on this dominating energy of strength and willpower, which is like this unshakable state, no fear, communicate directly. And like my energy just starts, as if it starts expanding. Like, and I like literally, I told the guys, I was like, listen, you have 10 seconds to get out of there. From that place, usually if you tell that to two large guys who are drunk, you're getting beaten up. They started looking at each other. They started getting scared, and they couldn't understand why they're getting scared. It was unexplainable in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're confused. They're looking at each other. Who the fuck is this? Like a little guy talking to us like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they're like, and they're scared. And they're like, okay, we're sorry. And they leave. Logically and rationally, that should not happen. But because I connected with my dominating energies, there was a right response. Whereas in your scenario, if you're facing this situation, you either got to use love or wisdom. Like the way of using love, I was like, okay, I understand you guys, you're in a rough situation. Hey, how about I help you out? I have 100, I give you 50, and we just move on with our lives, you know? And they will respond organically to that, because subconsciously, when two humans interact, when we enter into each other's field, and we have our physical body, then there's 6 other energetic bodies, like etheric, astral or emotional, mental, karmic or causal. Then there is programmatic, and there is one more escaping me right now, right? And when we come into each other's field, one of the fields, that's programmatic field, automatically reads off Nikolai's or Mitch's full program, like full specs of this identity and personality. So it knows your energetic mix, and it knows subconsciously how they're supposed to interact with you. That's why people would observe those situations. You probably observe for yourself when you interact with someone. It's like, I would have never acted with someone the way I acted with this person. I don't even know why I did it. Because when we pick up this full incarnation program plus energy mix, we start playing out, because we're mirrors here, we're karmic teachers for each other here.
Mm-hmm.
We start playing out specific scenarios. So to summarize everything now, is there are these dominating energies that we should align with, then our life becomes easier and everything becomes amazing. well, I shouldn't say amazing right away, but substantially more amazing. Then there is an energy that the soul is learning. In your scenario, it's truth and knowledge. Truth and knowledge is this ability to easily, like if it's dominating, for example, Maxime, my teacher and the partner, um, he has like all energies add up to 100%. I think he has around 50, which is a lot. So like when
Wow.
I say dominating energy for me, harmony and order is like 20%. For you, wisdom is around 30, plus
Yeah, I
minus,
think it's
right?
like 32 or
Yeah,
33. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So for him, he has so much truth and knowledge. That's why he's like always interested to learn things. But you're learning this energy. He has this as dominating energy. So he doesn't need to learn. He looks around, he looks at the book. This book is full of shit. This book has enough high quality content for me to read, and he'll filter and he'll know what's true and what's bullshit and what's distorted. So because you're developing this ability to be able to connect with knowledge instantly. So you need to go deep in any topic and study it deeply, and then try that knowledge and see if it's true or not. And that's how you develop this ability to easily connect with any type of knowledge, and then to discern what's true or what's garbage. So that every soul picks one, sometimes, rarely, more than one, very rarely, uh, uh, energy that it's learning. And so as we go through the world, I'm learning wisdom, and you have a lot of wisdom, energy of a wisdom. Wisdom, the way to describe wisdom is uh, harmoniously interacting with the world from a place of here and now. What it means is you're facing some kind of situation, and you can calm yourself down and scan the situation and pick the right tool, knowledge, behavior to achieve the best harmonious results. That's wisdom. So it's like basically ability to interact with the world in the most constructive way. So those are basically those dominating energies. And if we continue a little bit further on that, karma is just an energy that we don't know how to interact with. So it's also an energy. It also comes in this energy mix. It exists in us, but it's like all tangled. So that's why when we're presented with the same similar type of energy, we don't know how to communicate with it because we haven't learned this energy yet. It's almost like unknown energy. So when it's presented to us outside from another person or in a situation environment, we get triggered because in us it's all like entangled. We don't know how to use it. It's like an instrument that we haven't learned how to use it. It's like a more aggressive, advanced version of the learning energy. So you're learning truth and knowledge, but then let's say the triggering energy could be around children. Uh, then like we're learning how to interact with the expression of this playful, childish form of energy. So it's all, at the end of the day, this whole game is, if we strip all the theatricals, is learning how to be able to use any shape and form and energy, and by learning how to interact with that energy. If we learned how to interact with that energy, we open up that superpower within us. And the analogy I would give you, think of it as the world of forms here is a 3D printer, and we have access loading in here to few energies through which we create in the world. But the more we learn the energies, now the more different materials and colors we add to the 3D printer to create all types of things. So that's, I'll pause here.
Yeah, so a lot of different ways that I wanted to go into based on what you said. But to keep on topic, I'm going to go in
Yeah.
this direction. So if we're looking at the world today, right? This fifth matrix going to sixth matrix, we see a lot of chaos in the world, and we see a lot of chaos or even mistrust of public figures, of celebrities, of politicians, all these types of people. When we look at some of these individuals, are they all operating out of the same dominating energies, or are they all over the map as well? Like, would you say that as we go from fifth matrix to sixth matrix, are we seeing different flavors of dominating energies at play, especially kind of coming from the not the top, because the top obviously is matrix, but from those that are in perceived power? Mm.
Uh, they're all the same people. It's just in a different theatrical set. And yes, they have different dominating energies. So, for example, to be in leadership position, there is a predisposition for strengths. If somebody has strengths and willpower, it predispositions a person for a government or military role or entrepreneurship, because that's how that energy wants to express itself. But not every entrepreneur or leader or like government leader or military leader necessarily have that energy. Some of them are learning it and not doing it well. Some of them could lead through, let's say, harmony and order. And then you'll notice they're very different. Like they're very different personas among leaders. And the reason there are different personas is because everybody has different mix. So
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because even if I was just taking like, two major world leaders on the stage right now, if we looked at like Trump and Putin, and I wouldn't even know, but I would imagine that Putin has amazing strength and willpower because he's kind of a little dude. And he walks into a room, people are like, "Oh, we ain't messing with that guy," right? Um, so yeah, I was just thinking.
and Trump probably has communication and self-expression because he's spectacular. He's all about. He sees the world as a one big movie, and he is a main actor,
Mm,
and he wants to constantly self-express himself, constantly communicate, constantly position and market, which very well aligns with the egregor of America. America is all about positioning and creating premium where there's not necessarily a premium. And like instead of charging $10 for shoes, charging $1,000 for shoes just because there is amazing branding.
yeah.
And people with dominating energy of communication, self-expression, know how to do that. They know what to communicate that will click in people's hearts and minds that, oh, I want that and I'm willing to overpay.
Okay, so probably all the world's greatest marketers all have that as their dominating energy
Yeah,
for
like as an
sure.
example, we had a chat yesterday helping guys align their business, and one of the co-founders have communicational self-expression, but he's learning truth and knowledge. So he before they can sell the product, he really has to study that method, the science behind it, blah blah blah, because otherwise he wouldn't feel comfortable selling it. So he has to
Mm,
do that because he's studying truth and knowledge. But then when it comes to marketing, he automatically knows the type of video ad or whatever to create that will just click with people. So first he needs to study. If he didn't study, he'll feel uncomfortable. He won't be able to communicate and deliver it. But
mm.
if, let's say, he had truth and knowledge and communication and self-expression, he wouldn't need to study. He would automatically look into the essence of it, pull out the essence, and communicate and sell well.
So next little question I want to go into, and you touched on it, but I just want to kind of unpack it a little bit more. Like, um, what is the benefit of operating from your dominating energies, and is there a negative?
Um, It's a great question because it takes me to a very important topic. We briefly touched on it like a few episodes ago.
Hmm.
Archetypes versus subpersonalities or
Yeah.
flawed subpersonalities. So dominating energy is your archetype, and what it means, it's your biggest strength, and it's the largest amount of energy in the bucket. Hence, you want to operate from your dominating energies. The life, first of all, not only it becomes whatever you're doing, not only it becomes easier and you start experiencing more happiness, but the matrix starts supporting you because the matrix go, wow, finally this dude or this gal aligned with who they truly are. We're gonna back off and we're gonna help them.
Mm.
So it's same as like you can go into the fight with wrong dominating energy and get beaten the shit out of, or you can walk away with the other guy's wallet, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what also Matrix trying to do, to align you and the experiences it's creating. And for example, let's see. So, for example, somebody needs to align with self communication, self expression. The Matrix will keep presenting opportunities. Go into like movie school. Go into writing. Go into whatever. And if you pick one of those, like out of nowhere, you get a scholarship, or like parents go like, "Oh, I'll just pay for everything. Don't worry about it," or what. It creates the easy path for you to align. And when we're like, the biggest issue in today's version of the society, everybody's trying to mimic and copy others. That's when we misalign. Like somebody looks at Trump and I was like, I want to be like Trump. Probably not necessarily a big subset on the planet, but big enough in America and other countries. In some shape or form, he's doing some interesting and great things.
Hmm.
I want to be like Trump. But if you don't have self-expression and communication as a dominating energy, you will create a fake subpersonality that mimics and pretends to have that energy, but it doesn't. And the way subpersonality works, it needs to take and eat the energy out of your other energies to survive. And now it starts eating up all energies to survive. And the easy test to learn if you're operating or living from your archetype or subpersonality, when you're doing it something from your subpersonality, let's say you're walking into a meeting and you don't have communication self-expression, and that's how you're trying to present yourself as you're a great presenter, you will have internal fear, you will have anxiety, and you will have what's that syndrome? Imposter syndrome. Uh, because you'll be like, because subpersonality never has enough energy. So it activates as this fear, anxiety, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome. When you're aligned with your main energies, dominating energies, because there's a lot of that energy, you don't experience that. And that's also what in some spirituality people call aligning with your archetypes. There's also this misguided conception of archetypes, the king, the lover, whatever other ones are.
But yeah, king, warrior, magician, lover. That was.
Yeah, those ones are too broad. They can kind of work to some extent in early stages, but they're too broad. And it's okay to use that framework in the beginning, but ultimately you want to go a level deeper. And it's like you can pick, each of those are assembled from those energies and from other energies. So
Hmm.
even if you align with something that is more aligned with your type of energies, that's a step forward. But ultimately, you want to. It's like think of it as like watching a movie on a TV that is 20 by 16 pixels, super pixelated. You can barely. That's that framework. Then you go into dominating energies. You're like, let's say you're 1024 by 768. Then you understand your karma and you understand your purpose and objectives and etc. and your talents. That's like watching movie 4K.
Yeah.
So the more layers the more granular we go, the more we understand who we are, and then there's no question how to behave and present. But because those tools were lost, because we went to school and they just teach everybody the same shit, and then they also teach to mimic successful students. The program that it installs, look at people in society, successful people in society, and mimic them. That's death. And we're
Mm.
told this from the beginning, because now we start creating subpersonalities.
Yeah. Well, you always see that even for sure in any business or entrepreneurial circle. The first thing that I've heard in all the programs I go into is usually uh, success leaves clues. You know, um, steal like an artist. Um, everything is, yeah, copy, steal, like look at what your competitors are doing
Yeah,
and
yeah,
copy them, but just change the price or
yeah. Change
it
the colors.
change the colors, right? But it is always this thing about copying. Now, what is it? Well, a little divergent, but what is it that makes sub personalities so seductive, or what is it that installs them?
Um, I don't think subpersonalities are seductive. It just people do it from lack of knowledge and let's say per se lack of seeing other instruments.
Hmm.
And if you don't have knowledge or you don't know how to read the environment where the matrix is constantly presenting you an easy way, you pick a tool that other person tells you to pick. It keeps repeating, and because the society, and there are reasons why the society was developed this way. When a person is aligned living through subpersonalities, that is a very non-sovereign weak person. That's why it's so easy to manipulate most of the society today using just basic shit, like literally some of the stuff. Like, you don't need to have IQ above 70 to figure out when one newspaper published one thing and then 5 days later published the opposite of that. Isn't that clear now that that newspaper is predispositioned to lie in many other places? Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? But people
Yeah.
somehow don't see it and they don't want to see it. So when people live like when people live from some personalities, they're so weak and so lost that they can't. It's like they live a lie, and as a result, when you live from some personalities, it's super hard to distill external lie because you're not in your strength. Your barometer is so off that you chose to be this collection of sub personalities. Hence, we cannot blame those people. They cannot. When we look at a newspaper, like, come on, this is bullshit. For them, it's impossible to distill that it's bullshit. So we have to really understand them from that place, and we cannot judge them because they're in a different place.
So would we say that either the mainstream media or propaganda is the main or one of the main roots
Yeah,
for
that's a societal
installing?
structure.
Yeah.
Societal structure, values, set of values. Because once again, we talked in the beginning, we're given a body that's animalistic body. An animalistic body, it has mind. The mind's job, there's different. There's a discerning mind. That's when we develop triad, when we synchronize triad. And there's a mind. The regular mind is an animalistic mind. It's only seeking survival, comfort, procreation, and few other permutations related to all this, right?
Hmm.
So that's what it's seeking. And when that this let's call it, if we're not connected to God, we're just monkey, straight up. If we're not connected to consciousness, we're just straight up monkey. When the monkey is being educated in a school, observing parents, observing society, and etc., it's mimicking. What do monkeys do? They mimic, right? So they're mimicking what others are doing. So if everybody's telling us in school to mimic the successful people, what does everybody start doing? Successful, like, be like John, because John gets 95% on all tests, get A pluses on all tests.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to be John now. As we exit the school system, we find a new John. Okay, because I want to be in arts, I want to be like Taylor Swift, you know and that the mimicking continues. So the mimicking works, but the only way it works, if we scan all, let's say, artists, Taylor Swift, I'm pretty bad at the celebrities, pick the other celebrities, right? And and we're like, oh, being like this person resonates more, because there are celebrities, there are singers, artists, whatever, who have the similar dominating energies as you. So if you can intuitively pick that one, then it is much easier. When mimicking them, you're actually connecting with your own archetypes. Or
Mm.
also when you brought up using different methods in a business, right? It's what they're saying is true, and that's why it's true and it's not true. And the reason it's true and it's not true, some people take that method and succeed. And some people use that method, like steal, copy, whatever, and miserably fail. The reason is, in one scenario, people use their intuition when copying. I should copy this. This is a good fit. But this, I shouldn't copy. This is not a good fit. So they're just looking at options and using intuition or whatever method to see if copying applies for their current situation. And that is, by the way, wisdom. When you have all options of different ways you can go of, let's say, building your marketing, and out of all options, you take 10 and you narrow down to 3, and you're like, I think out of 3, this one will work, but I'll test 3. I know one of those 3 will apply to me. And that type of mimicking with discernment is what we want to do. That works, but not blind mimicking.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And when we're looking at all these different dominating energies, does the matrix give equal weight to each one of them, or are there certain ones that have greater importance than others?
For
Big
Matrix,
picture wise.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like um, it's ranked based on the percentage you have. So let's say you have more wisdom than love, but
Mm-hmm.
to Matrix, it's indifferent the type of energy. It's all the only thing that I would add: harmony and order. The color of that energy is white. If you take white light or regular light and you put it
Mm-hmm.
through the prisms, it breaks down to all other colors. So harmony and order is in order is combination of all other energies. So whoever has harmony and order can somewhat access all the other energies. And in one way or form, we can say harmony and order is the energy of absolute or God, because it's energy that it's the light that encapsulates all other lights, all other energies. And as we learn our energies, like let's say love, which is yellow, truth and knowledge, which is green, wisdom, which is dark blue, and etc. As we learn them and they become balanced, and ultimately it all becomes equally split, and when they put together it becomes white light. So we reconnect with becoming absolute again. So we reach the level of absolute, of a creator, because we've learned how to learn to interact with all energies in every shape and form and every expression of that energy.
It. And looking again at all the, crazy shit that's going on in the world,
Mm.
and like you said, you've got souls coming into sixth matrix, or this transition of fifth matrix to
Yeah.
sixth matrix. A lot of confusion. You've got a rise in depression, suicide, all these things going on. And are some of those issues because of either over or under expressing the wrong energies, dominating energies? Like if for example, let's just say somebody's dominating energy was devotion and compassion, and maybe they've got 20% that, but they're only expressing 5%. Would that therefore cause depression or anger or some sort of manifestation of a particular emotion that may be out of whack?
Yeah, I'd say it's more towards depression or apathy, and like kind of weakness, being weak, energy, like feeling like you don't have enough energy. So
Hmm.
anything that's related to feeling like you don't have, because depression is just form not having energy. Depression, depressed. It's basically body is telling you have deep rest because there's not enough energy. That means you're not aligned with either your internal energy or the energy source, which is your soul and spirit.
Hmm.
Anger is more karma, which we've chatted about, and the energies we don't know how to interact with. So that's where the anger comes. And one more thing I should add in your scenario is you're learning truth and knowledge. All your karma is in the context of truth and knowledge. So that's why you get triggered the most when it comes to like the products, what if my competitor steals my product, for example? It's
Hmm.
all through the lens of truth and knowledge, and that's how you learn truth and knowledge. So here, like just to connect all the dots, You load it in to learn truth and knowledge. And through karma, so there are 8 different energies we can learn on this planet. And then there are 22 subsets of that, how that energy can be learned, like 22 different angles. You can learn it, let's say, truth and knowledge you can learn through upbringing children. How do you deliver truth and knowledge to a child? That's one subset of energy. You can learn it through distilling, being sovereign and distilling what information is true and not true. You can learn it through sharing or not sharing information. So there are different examples, and that's the karma. So basically, there are different shapes of karma. And by the way, we should also double click separately outside and go deeper regarding your karma
Yeah.
through that lens, right? Re-unpack that. So, and that allows us to really nail that truth and knowledge from every possible aspect.
Mm. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
So it's like facets. Imagine it's a crystal with and 22 facets is one way of representing it. There are other modalities that will represent it with different number of facets, and once again, it depends how detailed you want to be. Some can represent the same energy from 5 facets, and the other one will represent through 100. But then it gets, the more pixels you get, might get too impractical. So, for example, I think if you would take Jyotish, which is Indian astrology, it can get super detailed on some stuff, on how to look at the energy. And then you look, let's say, at human design, it probably will be less detailed. You take numerology, it will be mid detail. So, depending on the tool you use, a lot of people use a lot of different tools, but they're not fully understanding how all dots, all these tools connect to a grander system, and they're not fully understanding what they're like. It's like you took a magnifying glass, but you're not sure what you're looking at, and you're not sure what magnifying how much you're magnifying. So as a result, you're like, yeah, I'm seeing this, I'm interpreting this. Am I magnifying enough? Not enough? So that's also another thing with all the instruments available on the market.
Yeah, bringing it back around to that point for a second, because I'm sure you've done some delving into human design and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff, right?
definitely.
So I know in that methodology, they've got, I think it's manifestors, manifesting
Yes.
generators,
Yes.
projectors. Is there another group I'm thinking about?
Reflector.
Reflector?
Yeah, I think it's called reflector, something like that.
Okay. How do these sort of groupings, for example, map out to the dominating energies? Like just as an example, like I know I'm a splenic projector.
Mm.
And one of the interesting things I remember when I was working with a lady who was involved in human design, this is going back, oh man, I think it's got to be 10 years ago. Actually, Azil put me in contact
Ah,
with her.
nice.
But one of the big lessons or takeaways that I got from that was this idea that with me and my energy, my soul, whatever, there was this waiting for the invitation. And this was the thing that she really hammered home.
Yeah.
Like where some people could go out there and they're just like making it happen and it just
Yeah.
appears. And she goes, no, she goes, you just gotta wait and the energy has to sort of come to you. And I was always perplexed by that because I'm like, no, I gotta go out there and make it happen.
Initiate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to. It's
Yeah, it's
like
similar
that.
for me. I think I'm pure manifesting generator. And like, by the way, I'm not an expert in human design. I think manifestors can start. Usually they're great managers and leaders. And generators have infinite amount of energy, or shouldn't call it infinite. They have access to more energy. Hence, they're the ones you want to have on the team because they actually the ones who build and create stuff. So I'm manifesting generator. And I also have to have go for invitation, but the hack is, because I'm manifesting generator, I can ask inwardly question, should I do it? And if inwardly response within like milliseconds is yes, I can start the process. So that's the hack. I can initiate the process, or I wait till somebody else asks me the question. So coming back to the original question is, I don't know how that maps, the system maps, because I think it's not, this is not related to dominating energies. This is related more how some of the energetic circuits are wired within
Mm.
the energetic structure, and how the energy flows, and what starts the energy flow, what stops, and etc. And then, like, if you look deeper at human design, there are all these channels that predisposition you for different talents and different expressions and etc. So it's just and it's funny you brought it up, because yesterday I read a channeling by the creator of human design, because this came to him in a channeling in 8 days. I think he was on some island, and he wrote out the whole system in 8 days. And it is a useful system to look at the design of this personality. What I've discovered, it was more an entry, let's call it, it was a gateway, a positive gateway drug into spirituality, because I found it, especially if the right person presents it, I find quite practical and grounded. So I was like, okay, there is something in this whole spiritual field and in all this esoteric metaphysics field. And I used it a little bit, but then I think there are other tools that describe the core of the personality structure that is loaded into this body in a system that is that creates higher impact while we play the game in the matrix. That's how I would describe it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting, even just to see how these different modalities can sort of be used, or even used as you said, the quote unquote gateway drug, to kind of get you on the path towards something.
I make a comment there because I think it's an important topic about modalities. What I recommend to everyone: use your intuition. If you're being pulled to some modality, just do it. Like, there are a set of tools that we use, because like, I've tried so many modalities. So I went on a mission flying around the world to find the modalities that have highest impact in a winning in the quest in a game of life. And I've tried so many. And the funny thing is, uh, all of them had impact for me to get to where I got. And then ultimately at Atman, we distilled to the instruments that we find have the highest efficacy. But the funny thing is, people who end up working with us are already at specific level of development. They've already tried a bunch of modalities, and it's almost in almost no situations people have an experiment with different modalities before getting to us. So ultimately, the way I guess I would describe Atman and what we do, people already like, people are seekers, already tried a bunch of things, had some positive impact, but cannot fully uh, uh, assemble the puzzle. So they start seeing the pieces of the puzzle, how this world works, how the matrix works, but cannot really put it together. Then they have pieces of the puzzle to how their personality works, and they've like human design, I don't know, astrology, all types of meditations, all types of coaching already like help them identify the pieces of the puzzle, but they cannot fully assemble it to a complete holistic picture. And that's what we do. We assemble the pieces of the puzzle, and if there are missing pieces of the puzzle, we'll show them to you and assemble. And rarely, if somebody doesn't even realize they're assembling the puzzle, rarely they'll come to us, because they're not seeking to assemble anything, right? So
Yeah.
that's why the recommendation is follow your intuition. Whatever interests you, your interest is curiosity being pulled, just do it, because it will be an important experience or stepping stone in your evolution. Same as, for example, all the mushrooms, psychedelics, ayahuascas, blah blah blah. Like, do we recommend them? No. Are they useful in specific journey of life for specific types of people? Fuck yes. So it's like fuck yes and no, and at the same time, right? It's
Yeah.
like we now have instruments to get people where they need to go without using that instrument, that other instrument. But for a bunch of people, we're not in their vicinity or within access. So they will use that instrument to kick them into the gear so that matrix get them to a place where they can talk to somebody like us or us.
Yeah. And since you brought that up and you touched on it earlier at the very beginning of this episode, so I wanted to circle back there just to kind of double click and sort of unpack it a little bit. Because you obviously mentioned psychedelics there, and then earlier we were discussing about you know uh, a lot of times people are using drugs, and the drugs are addictive because they give you this feeling of, I don't know if it's like feeling of God or something. I'm paraphrasing what you said there.
Yeah, one way we also joke about doing psychedelics is like buying a ticket to attend the room with gods for 5 minutes.
That's a good way of putting it. So if we look at, well, I'll take it in little steps. First of all, when we look at I guess we would say the egregor of
Hmm.
drugs,
Yep.
right? Um, is there any benefit that comes from them, or do we then separate, like so if we have the egregor of drugs, are they just all inherently bad, or are we separating them into things that are good or bad, or is it all context dependent? Like, if is there, 'cause I'm even trying to think, like, is there any possible scenario where injecting heroin or crystal meth is actually good for somebody? But maybe there is. I don't know, right? So, are there levels to this game? Are there some sort of drugs that's like, well, this is useful, like maybe it's psilocybin, maybe it's not. So kind of unpack that for a second, because since it was brought up twice, I feel like there's something there for it.
Important topic. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be an interesting title for this video: Soul and Drugs, or something like that. Soul's journey and drugs.
Yeah.
So I'll start. It's important to start at meta level. Everything and anything that is expressed in this world, in this universe, in this matrix has a purpose. Hence, fundamentally, it is good. There is a reason it is expressed. Everything
Mm.
from heroin to ayahuasca, everything from pharmaceutical drugs to healing plants to whatever, and everything from war to joyful meditation in Costa Rica. Everything has purpose. As a result, inherently, it's good, meaning it has purpose. Everything has purpose. So as soon as we start judging something, we block ourselves from accessing a specific type of energy.
Mm.
That's the way we become less of a creator. Because when we say, let's say, I for a long time, like because I spent, I don't know, 15 years in Western healthcare, built 3 companies there, then I realized what kind of sham it was, and I started judging it. I started blocking my ability to access specific types of energy, and I stopped using any kind of pharmaceuticals to heal myself. And I was successful to progress without that. But I blocked the access to the range of healing energies that I had access to, because ultimately pills or pharmaceutical pills is just a form of energy that your body is missing. So when you take a pill, it replenishes the body with that form of energy, and hence most of the pills treat symptoms. Rarely they treat root causes. um, in some scenarios, like
Yeah.
with bacterial stuff, they'll remove the bacteria, they'll kill the bacteria, but unless you address underlying issue, the bacteria will come back, and then you'll have to. So it seems like it treated the root cause, but it's like most of the time it's treating the symptoms, because it's just replenishing the energy that's missing in the body. It's rebalancing the energy.
Hmm.
Uh, so when you start looking at pharma, the pills that way, then you're like, oh, okay, it's just a form of energy. Why would I judge it? So for a long time, post being with Western medicine that couldn't help me with a bunch of my health problems, and they only got worse, I was like, oh, this shit does not work. No, it works, and it works in specific scenarios. It's same as mimicking. You just got to know when to use that instrument. So coming back to drugs, let's start with bad ones per se. Heroin and meth, right? Crystal
Yeah.
meth. They kind of destroy. They're destructive. But I'll give you an example where they can be useful in a grand scheme of things of evolution on the planet. There's a person who has overexpression of some kind of energy, let's say anger. And they would have went and shot and killed a bunch of people, but instead they're shooting heroin and crystal meth. So it takes away energy. Those drugs take away the energy. They're destructive. They lower the inharmonious potential of a human. That's a very valuable thing. It's same as porn. Porn as a egregor, not positive. But instead of going and raping somebody, the person will just watch porn and jack off at home. So
Yeah.
it just took all that energy and lowered that potential. Now it's not going to get expressed in that aggressive form. So is porn bad or good? Depends, right?
Depends on the person. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So then we go into all types of psychedelics. Just in that, there are molecules per se that are, or they're let's call them inorganic, or what do they call them? Synthesized molecules. Then there are plants, and the plants. Each plant has its own egregor because it's a plant, and it's behind every plant there is an egregor. Ayahuasca is an egregor. The mushrooms is an egregor, and the list goes on. Whereas synthesized molecules probably fall more under one egregor, and I haven't looked into that. And once again, they could be used in a positive or in a constructive or destructive way. Some people I see really enjoy tripping on mushrooms, and that becomes essential part of their life. And rather than getting insights from those experiences, where like, because there is a protocol, right? I think a John Hopkins protocol where you like write down your intention, you pick the right music, you put the eye mask on, then you have some mushrooms, and then you get real insights into your personality, into your journey, and etc. Whereas a bunch of people just fucking eat mushrooms at Coachella,
Yeah.
and that is a more destructive way of using exactly the same plant, right? Or like, I'll give you example of ayahuascas, right? Like some people go on ayahuascas, and there's like most of the shamans, especially in Latin America, are dark or gray. If you dig into it, it's like ayahuasca is actually quite dangerous and quite destructive. But then I know a bunch of people who used it in the right setting with the right shaman, and it gave them insights about their life that they couldn't connect the dots. Like for one person who we worked with, he was like kind of refusing children, and then in ayahuasca he saw his grandma's soul per se, and the grandma was, "You're ready for children. You should have children, and they
Mm.
will be amazing experience in your life." And there were a bunch of things like that. So it's they can be constructive and destructive, same as fractally, same as everything in the universe. Something that we consider good, let's say reading books. I know some people who read a lot of books. I would not call them intelligent nor smart. So some of them are even insanely confused. So are books good? Maybe.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I never thought about it in that way. Um, Especially how we can even look at things that are said to be positive, like, educating yourself, reading books, all this. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that that benefit or supposed benefit that we think about it is actually going to be expressed through the person or from the person,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like it's all how we apply. If we use an instrument at the right time and in the right place, heroin could be a good thing. That person, instead of ending up in jail, ends up, I don't know, in rehab. Do you
Oh,
see what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like, is it a bad path? Maybe better than spending, I don't know, 30, 50 lifetime death sentence.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be like Oprah, you know? You get some heroin. You get some heroin. Everybody gets some heroin.
Is
right?
that a real thing?
Oh, you never saw where
Oh,
Oprah used to do that with the cars? Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
oh,
It's the
yeah, yeah.
famous
Okay. Oh, yeah,
meme.
yeah. I get it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I saw little. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. She goes, "You get a car, you get a car.
yeah.
Everybody gets a car."
I thought she actually, because knowing what I know now about Oprah, I thought she actually said heroin. That's what I was like. Is this something I missed recently?
Well, we'll have to dive in next episode into the dark depths of who is.
Yeah,
All
probably.
right.
We don't want to poke around there.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Unless we want to connect with those strange energies.
No, not an
Yeah,
interest on this side. All right. Well, thank you, Nikolai. That was educating and insightful and entertaining as always.
yeah.
So
Thank you for great questions, and we'll see each other probably live in the next couple of days, and we'll see everyone else in a week or so.
you got it. Next week, it's on new questions, new insights.
Yes, indeed. Bye, everyone.